Welcome back to Coaches Exploring the Untethered Soul. And this week we're doing chapter 10, Stealing Freedom for Your Soul. It's funny that every time I read that chapter title, my brain wants to say from instead of for. And I have to catch myself. Anyway, the very first sentence is the prerequisite to true freedom is to decide that you do not want to suffer anymore. And I thought, oh my God, that's in Jamie Smart's advanced coaching program. One of the things we do is we analyze sentences for presuppositions and insights and meanings. And it's like, as soon as I read that sentence, I'm like, oh my God, this would be a fun one to pull apart. If you'll indulge me for a second, I'll explain what I'm talking about. So like the prerequisite, the presupposition is there's a requirement or a prerequisite for something. Like it's like something you have to do before you can do this. And to true freedom, like there's levels of freedom. There's true freedom, and there's some degree of freedom less than true freedom. Freedom is possible is kind of what comes to mind with that. To decide, so that there's a decision to be made. Like it implies agency or power to decide that you do not want. So there's like you can want, you cannot want. It's not really a need. Again, it talks to the type of choice that you're making. And to suffer anymore, just like the hope of that, the notion that this is something you could decide not to do. It's not, you're not locked into it. Anyway, I just thought in that one sentence, like, holy cow, there's a lot in that one sentence.
Yeah, and it's interesting taking another look at it, because kind of thinking like, okay, so we're all looking for freedom. So like you read a book about freedom or a chapter about freedom, but actually, and then so that word, oh, here we go, they're talking about something I'm interested in, freedom. But actually in that sentence, the word that should be jumping out is decide. A bit like what you say, it's not the freedom, it's that, because it's in a certain way. I'm imagining what struck me is that the prerequisite to a lot of stuff is the decision that you make beforehand, whether it's to do something, not do something, have something, be someone, or do something, I don't know what, but it's the decision bit that's like important.
Yeah. It's, for me, it's like that's the light bulb moment for people, is that whatever they're dealing with, most of the time they have no sense of the fact that they've decided that.
Or haven't.
By not deciding
default.
differently, they've kind of decided to fall into
they've made a choice. But
or even aware that there is a choice.
Every day we bear a burden that we should not be bearing.
And if we carry on from there, it says we fear that we are not good enough, or that we will fail. We experience insecurity, anxiety, and self-consciousness. It's kind of like, oh yeah, there's the full sum of the coaching industry right in that one sentence.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm still stuck. I'm still where you started out, Greg, when you said, every time I read that heading, I replace for with from, stealing freedom from your soul, and from your opening, unpacking the question to those subsequent questions, it's like, isn't that what we have been doing?
Mm.
Stealing freedom from our souls. That's so interesting to see that, how that one word, it just changes the,
And that's what we do unconsciously when we're not
yeah,
aware
that's
of
what
a
we do
choice.
unconsciously. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were all commenting before we started recording how we've pretty much all highlighted basically the whole, every word in the whole chapter, and we seem to be doing that as a trend. But the next part is just preceding the Buddha thing. So it says every day we are either feeling it or we are protecting ourselves from feeling it. It is such a core influence that we don't even realize how prevalent it is.
Mm.
When Buddha said that all life is suffering, this is what he was referring to.
Yeah.
People do not understand how much they are suffering because they have never experienced what it is like to not suffer.
Mm.
That line
Yeah.
Reminded me of my past and my clients. They don't know what it's like not to suffer. So no wonder they're lost in it all.
Mm.
Many of them, I should say.
Mm. And that's brought to mind when he goes on further to even suggest that it's actually a form of our psyche and these thoughts and the processing all these suffering feelings and sufferance and miserableness and all the rest of it, how it's like an addiction. And I messaged Lynn on Saturday, I think, and I was noticing I was having one of those days and all this suffering going on in my psyche. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to take some time out. So I think I'll go and watch the Davis Cup, because that'll be nice. That'll just sort of, I'll stop thinking about whatever I'm thinking about. And that's when I noticed it, because I wanted to watch the Davis Cup because Italy is in the final, and I kind of, I'm a fan of Italian players and the now #1 player and such like. So I thought it'd be great, go and watch that. And it was a very tight match. And I spent the whole match worrying about the match and whether Italy would win or not. And I thought, what is this? I've come here, to sort of chill out from my other thoughts. And that's when I wrote to you, Lynn, and I said, I think it's
I'm addicted.
I'm addicted to worrying.
Yeah.
Let me out of here.
Yeah.
It's a great analogy, like just for how we can project ourselves into a situation. Like, I'd be shocked if most of the people listening to this have no idea what you're talking about when you say the Davis Cup.
Yeah.
So your life has it has no bearing on whether Italy wins the tennis match or not, or somebody else wins. Like, your life will go on just fine, irregardless. But sports in particular, for me as a big sports guy, getting sucked into the importance of that match, and almost like the survival of the whole country depends on it. But that, to me, that's part of the fun of sport. And then when the game's over, you can kind of snap back into reality, and it doesn't really matter. As a lifelong Toronto Maple Leafs fan who haven't won a championship since 1967, I know what suffering, what the sports team is all about.
Yeah.
So I wonder what it would be like to watch a event like that from your seat of consciousness without any opinion at all, how much you would enjoy it or not.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I do watch I'll watch games of teams that I don't care about, like NFL footballs like that. Like, I don't really care. I don't gamble, so I don't have a horse in the race kind of thing. I just like watching for good plays and to watch, see good athletic performances. But when it is a much different experience just watching a game that I don't really care about. Like it's enjoyable, but if I had to put it on a scale, I'd say it's like a 5 out of 10 experience versus when it's my team and they win, it's a 10 out of 10 experience.
Yeah, I'm wondering, Vanessa, when you say if you watch that from, let's say, the seat of consciousness and had, no judgment, no thought, no opinion, no nothing, indeed, it would also erase the element of fun and enjoyment of the match, or whatever emotion it is that comes up when you're supporting your team or watching it.
Yeah.
So kind of it sounds to me like, whether I was worrying about the Davis Cup and the Italian players or not, like that's what needed to be done, because otherwise the whole sense of it, in apart from the game itself, the actual knocking a ball back and forward over a net, is lost. It's there for a purpose, to create an emotion, perhaps. But if you're out of that, then there is none.
But what I'm talking about is watching your emotions without getting caught up in them.
Yeah.
Not so much not having emotions,
Yeah.
but just having a different perspective on what's going on for you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
seeing how that would change the experience. But still, a team you still want your team to win. You're still, part of you is invested in it.
Yeah.
But if you were just to watch that happen, what would it be like?
Yeah. What's coming to my mind is that, one is the fact that I don't even know, like when Singer talked in the last chapter about fully living in that seat of consciousness and having the ecstasy of that energy flowing through you all the time. It would be like that 10 out of 10 experience I was describing with when my team wins. It would be like having that experience the whole time for every play, for every team. Like I in other words, like I've never had that, so I can't even relate to it.
Yeah.
But I'm imagining, like, holy crap, that's like, imagine how much better. I wouldn't have to wait for my team to win. I could just turn on the whatever game it is, whatever team it is, and enjoy it as if it were my team winning. If I was watching it from that place. So thanks for pointing that out, because that's definitely worth exploring.
I had this let's say outside in experience last week, and it went on for a while. Everything my partner did was wrong. And I was very clear about it to him. Bless his heart, he took it well. But as it was happening, I realized I was stuck in the outside in. And I tried to step back. I don't know how successful I was, but that part of me was just laughing at how stuck I was, or how stuck my thoughts were. I couldn't get myself out of it. Fortunately, I woke up the next day and it was gone, but oh my God, that was funny.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I know we're still at the beginning and staying on the same point, but I actually, as I was watching the tennis, I was actually aware that, like, I was kind of thinking, I shouldn't be feeling like this. I shouldn't, why doesn't this feel it like, oh, come on, Elaine, you can do this, you know stuff. Try to get out of this. And like you said, Vanessa, I just tried to step back. Like, my heart was pounding and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I'll have a heart attack in a minute. And I thought, well, that's ridiculous. I'm only watching a tennis match. Oh, come on, Elaine, you know this stuff. Get out of this. And no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't. Until, of course, there was a slight change when it looked like the game was done. Yeah, I know, I've watched this guy play so many times. I know that once he's got to this point in the game, he's going to win it. And that's, of course, but again, it's still outside in thinking, it depends on the outside. It didn't depend on me. But I was aware of it and aware that at that moment in time, I couldn't do a darn thing about this really uncomfortable feeling. that my team might lose, you know. Oh,
I love these examples because I mean, later in the chapter, the singer talks about the little things and noticing them.
Mm.
Like every one of these is an opportunity to practice, I guess, relaxing and really like catching yourself or noticing and releasing and relaxing out of it. So
yeah. And indeed, I wish I'd actually read this chapter before I'd watched the match. I read it afterwards. Never mind.
I'm sure there'll be more matches.
There'll be,
Yes,
there'll be more.
yes.
Yeah.
next thing I highlight is you are either trying to stop suffering, controlling your environment to avoid suffering, or worrying about suffering in the future. And I was like, oh yeah, that's me right there.
Mm.
That's my daughter. That's my wife. Fortunately, not my son. Really, he's not as caught up in the suffering game as the rest of us in the family. But I could just see it so clearly, like how true this recounting of it is.
Mm.
He says the constant anxious inner talk is a form of suffering, and it's like that bloody inner roommate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Overall, through all this chapter, I've listened to it a few times now. I listened to it again this morning, and just reading the words. It's like, imagine if that weren't all going on. I mean, it is kind of hard to imagine because, as he says in the beginning, it's what we've been doing. It's what we do, and it's so imagine what that would be like if we were living from that place. And
he says that, doesn't he?
yeah, so
this
yeah,
this state of affairs is so prevalent. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. That you don't see it, just as
Yeah.
a fish doesn't see the water.
Mhm.
Mm. Yeah.
And I think that's so helpful to remember when you're dealing with somebody that isn't, let's put it this way, not calm and peaceful inside. They just don't realize it. They expect their life they expect suffering on a level, and they don't even notice it.
Mm.
And they're doing the best they can because they don't know anything else. This chapter gave me a lot of compassion for
Mm.
where most other people are, and my clients when they start working for me. It was a reminder how most people live in suffering, and that's all they know, and that's what they expect, and that's their comfort zone in a way.
Mm.
It's what they know.
Yeah. Maybe it's the thought struck me there. Maybe they think it's what they deserve.
Mm.
Well, yeah, that's part of it for many people.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
Which is also, outside in thinking.
Yeah.
And my job as a coach and my personal journey, that was a big step when I really understood none of this was my fault, and I was doing the best I can through my whole life. And now I've made a choice. Making that choice really changed everything.
Yeah.
Mm.
It brought me you guys. Yay!
Yay.
I like how he creates this distinction between your psyche and who you really are. He says to end the suffering, you must first realize that your psyche is not okay. You must then acknowledge that it does not have to be that way. It can be healthy. It truly is a gift just to realize that you don't have to put up with it or protect your psyche. And then he goes on, this really struck a chord with me. He says, inner sensitivity is a symptom of non-well-being. It's the same as when the body sends pain or displays other symptoms when it's not well. Pain is not bad. It's how the body talks to you. And you guys know I've been working with my coach Ollie Mansfield on my health and well-being, but he has a metaphor called the pain doctor. And he says, when you get a visit from the pain doctor is actually your friend. He's coming to tell you that there's something you're doing and isn't right or correct or whatever. Like and I saw it very clearly, the relationship between that and what the singer's talking about here in terms of pain is not bad. It's how the body talks to you. It's like, oh yeah. And that this one, your psyche is communicating through its universal language, fear.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's no wonder it gets so loud and determined because it's trying to tell us something, and we're not listening.
Yeah.
And it's just like the pain doctor, when it'll start with a little tinge, like I had a little tinge in my knee, and eventually, because I wasn't listening, I couldn't walk. So it's to me, this is an invitation to listen to what's going on.
Mm.
Yeah. It sounds to me in my experience and, let's say, knowledge of traditional Chinese medicine, and also a little bit of quantum physics, and how I learned that the energy that let's say is released or is received at a psychological level is a high vibrating energy, mental level, let's say, whereas the body will receive or transmit a lower, denser energy, and so, if you like, slower in a certain sense. And it's I always think that usually sort of the last straw is, when your psyche's just done with you not listening to it, it'll shift into your body. It'll shift into the physical. It gets that bad.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always or often, or I would actually go as far as to say always, a consequence of the psyche, because like you're just not listening. So, hey, do you know what? I'll just think I'll have this guy walk out in front of the traffic because he's looking at his phone. Then he might stop and listen.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get some physical pain, which often, I'm wondering, in sort of worst case scenarios, is not sometimes, by the time the physical manifestation of pain has appeared, I'm talking worst case scenarios, of course, it's too late. Because where, let's say, today's medicine cannot help. That's what kind of struck me with these words, so like let's get a grip, let's get aware, let's become aware and listen to the first signals, the first ones, what your psyche is telling you, what's going on there, and look at that first before our health and wellness has deteriorated so much that it's become a physical issue, and literally we can't get out of bed in the morning.
What struck me from this whole paragraph when he's talking about the body and the mind is that, and I can't remember what words he exactly uses, but we wouldn't put such strain on our bodies and expect them to be okay, or expect them.
Yeah.
We just wouldn't put such strain on our bodies.
We perhaps couldn't.
We couldn't.
Weightlifting.
We probably couldn't. No,
weightlifting. There's a weight to which you cannot lift.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the end, and your body says no, can't do it.
Yeah. When he says, if you mistreat an animal, it becomes afraid. This is what's happened to your psyche. You have mistreated it by giving it a responsibility that is incomprehensible. It's like you're giving it too much to do. And again, we wouldn't expect that we could do that to our bodies and there be a good outcome.
This was a big shift for me when I read this part along the lines of what Vanessa said in terms of recognizing innocence. Like it's, like I just said 2 minutes ago, that my bloody inner roommate. And now it's like, oh, that poor guy. I'm the one who this impossible job to do.
Poor guy.
Mm.
And then I'm getting mad at him because he's trying to do it. So yeah, it was like, oh yeah, it was just that a shift from kind of that bloody roommate. I got to deal with him or do something about him to like, oh, that poor guy, like that's my fault.
You can lock him in the basement with mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that
Yeah.
Greg's like summed up when he says, then you said, now mind, figure out how to make every one of these feelings a reality, even if you think about it day and night. And of course, your mind said, I'm on the job. I'll work on it constantly.
Yeah.
That's that. Yeah.
Yeah. Who knew all we needed was a better job description for the mind and it would all be okay.
There we go. So what always strikes me when we talk about this sort of thing is when he says inner sensitivity is a symptom of non-well-being.
Mhm.
I see this sensitivity almost everywhere I look. People are sensitive about the words you use, about a big thing around here. They changed the name of a ski area because it was named after an Indian tribe.
Mhm.
And they didn't want to cause offense. That's this inner sensitivity coming out. This movement, Black Life Matters, that always confuses me because it's like, of course, Black Life Matters. Every life matters.
Every life matters.
That's what happens inside of me. But this need to call that out it's inner sensitivity, and it's, to me, it's showing me where our society's psyche is.
Yeah.
It's
like a
not well.
societal manifestation of this impossible job. And now we've given it to the government to make sure that no one could ever be offended by anything because we're all not okay. And we need to not see a word or a name or a picture or something.
Yeah. And I'm not saying it's not real to people. It's very real.
Oh, very real. Yeah.
But it points to mental health as a society.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's a sign that societally we're not okay.
Yeah, I think it's also a sign that that's not where the solution will be.
No.
That's the point.
In because I mean, in the same way that, it may offend somebody that you take away the name of the Indian native ski thing, that's going to offend some people and it's going to please others. And those people that, and then on the other side, it's going to offend in one way or another those people who are pleased by the same thing, and then it's going to offend somebody else.
Yeah.
So how do you work your way around that? And if that's not a double bind, I don't know what is.
Exactly.
So it's back to basics, thinking out of the box, and it's not even, and the box is not in the psyche.
And I just want to say, for anybody who's sensitive about Indian names or any of the stuff we talked about, it has nothing to do with that.
Exactly.
It's every life is important. I really do feel that way. And if it makes everybody feel better to change the name of a ski area, I don't care. But I'm just noticing these currents in our society and what I see might be going on.
It kind of really, I highlighted this part on 147. Says, what you'll see is that your mind is always telling you that you have to change something outside in order to solve your inner problems.
Right.
But if you are wise, you won't play this game. And you kind of, what you just described is, you know, that's what
Yeah.
society is trying to do is let's,
Play the
okay,
game.
people are upset over here. Okay, what can we change on the outside to make them feel better? And it's not the way to do it.
Well, this whole paragraph is an "I'll be happy when," isn't it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, I'll be happy when they change the name. I'll be happy when they don't. I'll be happy when I get the job. I'll be happy when whatever his examples are. I'll be happy when I get the promotion. Of course, he goes on to point out that that's not the case.
Yeah.
All that happens is that the next problem comes to the surface.
Mhm. The signs
So
of
if we
the
use that,
body.
and that's, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just reading this sentence here and thinking back to your example. What it's doing is making up external situations that might make things more comfortable. So someone somewhere decided there's some discomfort. The answer to the discomfort is to change the name to whatever, without thinking through that, you know, that's not the cause of the discomfort. So they change the name. It's not, you know, whatever the discomfort is, that's not going to solve the problem. So just thinking about that and thinking about watching any news item about what governments are facing, what issues are going on in society and what they're trying to do to change them. They make a change, they put a plaster over it, everything stays the same or things get worse. It's like, uh-oh. Everyone needs to read this book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's good. And thinking
And
back
watch
to
these
previous
videos.
the video or these videos.
Yeah, they don't have to
But
read the book if they watch the videos.
It's root cause, isn't it? When he talks earlier in one of the
Yeah.
paragraphs about root cause, and somehow people have
Yeah.
forgotten about
For me,
root
this
cause.
goes back to relates to the three principles, right? It's like this sentence: the external situations are not the cause of inner problems. It's basically, you know, everything we just talked about is the outside in misunderstanding.
Yeah.
And I think I heard a singer say in one of the things I've been listening to, you can't solve an inside problem by changing something on the outside.
Mhm.
And you know that's the key to the principles is understanding that it's an inside game 100% of the time, no
Yeah.
exceptions.
The root of the problem is that you don't feel whole and complete within yourself.
Yeah. Then he makes a simple, gives a simple example. You know, this is why. He says at some point, oh yeah, here we go. It's explaining that the problem is within you, it's not. So he says you began with a problem inside yourself and you tried to solve it by getting involved with somebody else. That is, you know, you think the problem is in your relationship, but the problem is not the relationship. The problem is you in the relationship. So you change and get a new lover or whatever, you know, but it goes on. It doesn't work like that.
Mm-hmm.
And yet he even concludes that paragraph with, he says it's all so easy to see once you step back and dare to look at it honestly. You know, which again, for the psyche, I think is part of the problem. The daring to look at it honestly.
Yeah.
Because that's one of those things that we'll run away from, the truth, you know, whatever the truth is.
Oh, good. He does go on to talk about success.
And so he says success regarding your psyche is comparable to health regarding your physical body. Success means you never have to think about your psyche again. You just live your life without getting uptight or worrying about it. You actually live your life instead of fearing it or fighting it.
Mhm.
Success. I'm in.
Yeah.
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 And then he goes on to create the metaphor of the addiction, right? If you want to be free, you have to learn to treat it like any other addiction.
Mm.
And he talks about quitting smoking and things. He says you actually live life instead of fearing or fighting it. And work can be fun, family can be fun. You can just enjoy all of it.
Which makes sense from what he's also said before, that it's not out there.
Mm.
And until we stop striving for something that is out there. It's like, let's imagine that we're not enjoying our family or our relationship or our business or our work or whatever, then the psyche will go to something out there, something else. Well, I really want to be sitting on the beach in the Bahamas. And then, of course, some guys get to be sitting on a beach in the Bahamas. So we look out there and say, see, he did it. He's got success. And then that's where we keep on heading until we realize, again, the same outside in, inside out understanding is the only way that it can be solved, so that we're actually happy in the here and now with what we've got, or successful in the here and now, right now. That's where it is.
In that vein, he says, the truth is everything will be okay as soon as you are okay with everything.
Mm-hmm.
I love this. He says, just relieve your mind of the job of making sure that everyone and everything will be the way you need them to be so that you can feel better inside. Your mind is not qualified for that job.
Mhm.
Giving it an impossible task. Yeah, they're so fired.
Yes.
Yeah, he says that, fire it and let go of your inner problems instead.
It's literally setting yourself up for failure, isn't it? I mean,
totally.
When I read that part about you're fired, I had an image of Donald Trump in The Apprentice. He goes, your psyche sitting across from the desk goes, you're fired.
I just love the way he writes, with this kind of nonchalance, going back to the habits and the addictions. And he just says, the bottom line is all you have to do is stop putting the cigarettes in your mouth.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And then the equivalent, obviously, you just got to stop doing it.
Just stop.
He's got a hilarious sense of humor, this guy.
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
Have you listened to any of the podcasts, Vanessa?
I haven't.
His podcast, he is hilarious.
Yeah,
He really is. Very funny. Very, very funny.
I am the busiest retired person you know.
Says here, the key is to be quiet. It's not that your mind has to be quiet. You be quiet. You, one inside, watching the neurotic mind. Just relax. You will then naturally fall behind the mind because you've always been there. You are not the thinking mind. You are aware of the thinking mind. And then he says, take a moment to remember that you're spinning on a planet in the middle of empty space. And remind yourself that you're not going to get involved in your own melodrama. And that I know Lynn and I have talked about this before, like this constant reference to like put the things into perspective. Like we're just a speck of dust floating through a vast universe. Like it's in one of the Singer's recordings, he talks about this very moment took 13.8 billion years to be created. Like just deal with it. Like it's fine. Like just accept what's happening in front of you. It's none of your business what's going on in the world.
Mm.
Just be there and notice.
Yeah.
My partner last night was telling me how gold gets started. And it's really the story of all elements. There was a nova or a supernova that exploded everything, and then the bits that were left are the elements that we have. That's what we're made out of, stardust. Stardust.
Yeah.
And we come from outer space, bits of stars. Why are we worrying about all this stuff?
Yeah.
That's so much bigger than anything we could even imagine.
Yeah, it certainly puts things into perspective when you think of that. That was David Bohm's work, wasn't it? The physics search of the physicist, this theory. And it's like it's the idea that we're, made of stardust is so mind-blowingly ridiculous that everything else is doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah.
All the tiny bits of nonsense that our psyche gets up to on a day-to-day basis is just kind of, it's just insignificant.
Yeah.
Written in capital letters, sort of thing. Yeah.
Singer has a program called Living from a Place of Surrender. And in the beginning of that, he goes into this whole science of what you just talked about, Vanessa, about supernovas and the planets and stars and gravitational field. I don't know. It was a bit of a mind bend for me, but it's he was basically just setting the stage for talking exactly what you just said about how, where we all come from, what we're all made of, and the miracle of it, really. And then we get caught up in how our hair looks or what kind of car we drive or what some stranger passing us on the street might think about us. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hilarious when you think about it.
I'm just seeing a new let's say wave of how to discipline your kids, let's say. So they're misbehaving at the table kind of thing, but the understanding is that as I received as a kid, it would be like, go to your room, shut up, and kids need to be seen and not heard and all of that stuff. But now it's like, well, the understanding is, hey guys, you can stay at the dinner table, carry on throwing peas or whatever it is that you do with the dinner table, throw them about, but get that other part of you out and go into your breakout room kind of thing is going to be the command, so the kids know they can still hang around and be loved and be cared for, but like that bit of them just has to leave. New sort of form of discipline.
Is that only for kids though?
Well, I think
Don't think so.
I was thinking like Greg's kind of amply covered it for himself as an adult. Yeah. But like, wouldn't it be a wonderful thing to be able to teach kids, as Jamie proposes, that we'll be teaching the people who'll be passing it through to their kids and so on. So that there's this learning is available to people in an exponential kind of way.
Instead of teaching them that their psyche has to control the world, for them to be happy.
Yeah.
I was telling Lynn that the other day that as I was reading this, I was thinking about it from the context of parenting and stuff. It's interesting. Because up until that point, I'd only been thinking about this from a, like as a soul person, like just for myself, not in the context of relationships or parenting or managing people or whatever. Maybe we'll just wrap this up. I'll read the last part of this chapter. It says, this path of letting go allows you to free your energies so that you can free yourself right in the midst of your daily life. By untethering yourself from the bondage of your psyche, you actually have the ability to steal freedom for your soul. This freedom is so great, it has been given a special name, liberation.
Amen to that.
Believe it or not, that's not even the end of the book. We still got a few chapters to go. This next chapter, chapter 11, Pain, the Price of Freedom. We'll dive into that next time.
I'm going to have to buy myself some new pencils to do the underlining because I'm running out of lead.
Thanks, guys. That was fun.